Welcome to another edition of the ISB podcast. I'm your host, Sahil, here with Chris Brown, our resident reggae boy. And Chris was at the match to the Copa America match tonight between Ecuador and Jamaica in Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. He's on his way back now. And for those of you that missed that match, it was obviously from the Copa America group that we're covering today, Group B. And Chris, it was a rough one.
Yeah, it's a tournament of some bad breaks for the Reggae Boys on and off the field. I think if Mikel Antonio's maybe a step back in the Mexico game when he goes for the header, he's not offsides. And then the VAR call today, not overturning what looked like a handball. If
Yeah.
those things go the other way and in the Reggae Boys' favor, maybe we're talking about them having a chance against Venezuela to potentially advance, but officially eliminated after that 1-0 win in LA by Venezuela over Mexico.
Yeah, so I'll get to the controversial incident, but let's just go through the game, step by step. So, what were your impressions the first half? Let me talk about the first goal actually by Ecuador because it was a little bit of a fluky goal. Do you think the goalie could have done better? You were there in the stadium, so what did it look like there?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's one where maybe if Blake is in there, he can get to it. But yeah, just a very kind of fluke play. I don't know what the instructions were from the sideline or how the positioning needed to be to do a better job. Maybe on trying to get to that one, but yeah, that just put him in a hole very early. And being a defensive oriented team, I mean, they lined up with three center backs today. The Damian Lowe in midfield experiment continued. I don't know that's going to be sustainable going forward, but when you get punched in the mouth like that early and you're set up in that defensive of a format, they just look slow getting to balls in that first half. Just not a lineup optimized, I think, to take advantage of the speed that Jamaicans tend to be known for. So
Yeah, and then obviously the penalty, the Ecuador awarded a penalty, fair penalty in your mind?
I think it does obstruct you know the ball from a potential a goal scoring opportunity for Ecuador. I think the issue I would have with it, and that I think Reggae Boys fans would have throughout the game, is that there seemed to just be an inconsistency in the calls, and I think that's the one thing that you ask for if you're a player. If the game is going to be called tight, if it's going to be called loose, that's fine. But as long as it's consistent with the calls on both sides, and that seemed to be a pretty major inconsistency at a critical point of the game.
Yeah, yeah. So let's kind of get into that now. Obviously, Jamaica comes out second half, pretty good goal, goal mouth awareness by Mikel Antonio, I think, on that goal, right? To make it 2-1.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to him. I think that's the first goal. I just checked it that he's had since World Cup qualifiers in January 2022. And the guy, I mean, I got to give a shout out to him. Just works so hard, takes so much abuse from the defensive backs in CONCACAF. So I think it's well earned, and I hope that he can get a few more before his international career with Jamaica is through.
Yeah, okay. So now let's talk about the incident. So this is the incident that everyone's talking about. Obviously, you were in the stadium. It was basically what looked to be a clear handball against Ecuador. The VAR reviewed it, and surprisingly to everyone, I think, the ref decided, hey, it's not a penalty. In the stadium, what did it look like to you, and what's your reaction to this particular incident?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think the first one was a call on the field that was the penalty, if I'm not mistaken. This one was a no call that then had to be reviewed to see if the call was going to be overturned and actually call the penalty. So I think that kind of factors into it. Anytime you're talking about reversing a call, you've got to have, is it indisputable video evidence, or that's what
Yeah.
the term is, and I guess the ref didn't see it. You know, it it looked like a similar situation to the first one, and again, it's just an inconsistency with it. I think, a very partisan, obviously Ecuador crowd, that tends to be the case whenever the Reggae Boyz are playing in the U.S. So that they were delighted that it ended up being what it was. But there was a long delay before that second call even went to a review. So yeah, just a kind of weird situation. And again, it seemed like an inconsistency in the officiating there.
And you've watched it back again now, obviously, and it's a penalty to you for you, right?
I mean, again, if the first one's getting called a penalty, then I'm not sure how that one isn't. But
That I mean, I'll be honest, just as a neutral, I that's completely a penalty to me, and I think that obviously Ecuador tacked a goal on in garbage time. You call it garbage time because at that point,
when you're sending players forward and
yeah,
you kind of have to sell out as a team. They didn't send the keeper out, but those are the type of goals late in games that you tend to concede when
yeah.
you have to send players forward and kind of you know go all out like that because you're going to be you have to get the point, you have to get the extra goal, but of course you're extremely vulnerable in the counter. So I think that's all that happened.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all
I'm
I
not
chalk
even.
that up
That's what I'm
to.
saying. I'm not even talking about
Yeah,
that that wouldn't have happened if this call was on the field. So
exactly right.
I personally think Reggae Boys fans should be extremely aggrieved at this particular incident because it's lights out. After that, after that call on the way
Oh
back from Leeds.
goodness.
No. But to be honest, yeah, I think
There you
that
go.
they're they should be aggrieved based on this call, and I think that this is an unfortunate inconsistency that VAR still has not been able to solve, where refs are still making major decisions like this.
Yeah, and it doesn't help when you're in the stadium and it feels like the 20. I think the tennis was like 24,000 of those 24,000. I'm sure 2,300, 500 or
Yeah,
23,500 are Ecuador fans, but yeah, it's a tough break, but I do think that you can't put yourself in that hole in the first half either. And I do believe that these last couple games, there were some tactical decisions by Halgrimson that I thought were just making the team a little too defensive, didn't take enough advantage of some of the creative qualities and speed that the players have. I know
yeah,
that they're working with a kind of makeshift limited roster, but this is maybe the first time that I think a lot of Reggae Boys fans are kind of scratching our heads at some of these lineups, and they were on the a very flat-footed stance when they started that first half, and it's tough to crawl out of a 2-0 hole.
yeah. All right, look. So moving forward, credit to Venezuela. Venezuela won against Mexico today, and that was a big victory tonight by Venezuela. Solomon Rondon with a penalty. So got to give a shout out to Venezuela, but unfortunately that eliminated the Reggae Boys. Chris, what do you want from the final match from the Reggae Boys in Copa America?
I want to see, because there's nothing to lose, empty out the bench, give some of the younger players, some of the players that are not getting as much time, like a Kahim Dixon, a Ronaldo Cephas, a Corey Anderson, a John Bell, more minutes. Like, you need to see what you have in terms of the depth of this roster, because, given some of the off the field issues, they're really going to have to kind of rethink what this squad's going to look like going forward to the Nations League this fall, and then next June to the rest of the World Cup qualifiers. So yeah, just you don't have anything to lose as far as any sort of
Yeah,
position in the standings. Just let it all hang out and see what you get from some of the young kids out there.
yeah. So, all right. Unfortunate for the Reggae Boys tonight. Of course, officially eliminated from Copa America. We'll be continuing our Copa America coverage daily. But Chris, I'll leave this to you to just any finishing thoughts, and obviously we'll have videos later to do a full wrap up of the Copa America, experience for the Reggae Boys. But I'll just leave it to you. Obviously, tell us good experience, right? Going to the match to see the Reggae Boys in person.
It was, yeah, and shout out to the Ecuador fans. I know you and I and the rest of the fam went to a game at Allegiant Stadium at some point last year. The environment was very different in that one. This one's a lot more civil and cordial. The concessions attendants had learned they shouldn't be giving people certain beverages at certain times in the game with certain containers. So
Yeah.
yeah, but shout out to the Reggae Boys for competing in this tournament. I think making a good showing, and hopefully after the first goal in our history of the tournament, we can try and find a way to get the first point or set of points in that last game against Venezuela.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. So, all right, y'all. See you next time.